Earlier this week, Tracy McGrady, former NBA superstar, Basketball Hall of Famer, gave his take on the greatest player of all time. And T-Mac in this interview made numerous valid points in Michael Jordan's favor as the greatest of all time. But his best point, his strongest argument, is that Michael Jordan, unlike LeBron James, never choked like in the 2011 finals. And T-Mac didn't pull any punches, and he said straight up, a player having that bad of a series in the finals disqualifies them from being compared to Michael Jordan, because in MJ's era, he never had a finals series, let alone a playoff series, as bad as LeBron versus Dallas. Now, a decade later, after the 2011 finals, it's almost become cliche of how bad LeBron was that series. So in today's video, I'm going to remind you guys just how bad he was and why that series alone is the biggest failure for any superstar of all time. Now, why it's the biggest failure of all time is that Heat team. Of course, they had LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh. Three players who prior to 2011 were all top 15 NBA stars. And I would argue Dwayne Wade and LeBron, at worst, were top 5 and debatably top 3. As looking at 2010, all three players, Wade, LeBron, and Bosh, were top 10 in scoring. And both Wade and LeBron were top 10 in assists, while Chris Bosh was top 10 in rebounds. Simply put, this Heat team had no excuse not to win the championship. Now, with that added context of Miami being a legit super team, let's look at the finals and how LeBron played. So, for the start of the series, the first 3 games, Miami was actually up 2-1. LeBron in these games, he was, I wouldn't say great, but he was serviceable, averaging 20 points, nearly 7 boards, 6 assists on 51, 44, and 80 splits. He wasn't his team's best player, that was still Dwayne Wade, but he wasn't complete garbage, at least not yet. As looking at Game 4, with the Heat up 2-1, this is LeBron James' infamous 8-point performance on 2 of 11 shooting. For some context, Michael Jordan, his entire playoff career, never scored under 10 points, not once. And the finals, could you imagine MJ not cracking double digits? It simply didn't happen and wouldn't happen in any lifetime. And for LeBron this game, of course scoring 8 points is embarrassing. But he was outscored by Chris Bosh 24-8, Dwayne Wade 32-8, and for the Mavericks, Dirk Nowitzki, Shawn Marion, Tyson Chandler, Jason Terry, and Deshaun Stevenson all outscored LeBron James. And it gets even worse, as in the fourth quarter LeBron, he played all 12 minutes, didn't sit once. But despite that, put up a donut, 0 points in the fourth quarter, and eventually losing the game by 3 points. And looking at Game 5, LeBron's fourth quarter antics once again would come up big time. As in the fourth quarter of Game 5, again, he played all 12 minutes and managed a measly 2 points on 25% shooting. After that game, LeBron's mental confidence, the Heat's confidence, it was absolutely shook. And in Game 6 at home, they would lose by double digits and choke away the championship. And after being up 2-1, despite LeBron James not playing great, the final 3 games, why the Heat lost, was solely on LeBron James and his inability to come through. As in Games 4, 5, and 6, his totals, he averaged 15.3 points on 44% shooting, 17% from 3, 40% from the line, with 4.7 turnovers. If you want to talk mental strength, mental toughness, shooting 40% from the line, that shows you guys LeBron James was completely out of it. And in terms of scoring the basketball, I would argue the most important thing for a player. Michael Jordan in his finals career, the lowest he ever averaged was 27.3, and for an entire playoff series, never was below 26.6. And for even more context, LeBron in games 3 through 5 scored under 18 points 3 straight times. Michael Jordan, his entire playoff career, 179 games, scored under 18 points only twice. And those 2 games were a whopping 8 years apart compared to LeBron James, whose 3 games were an 8-day time period. And like I said earlier, when it comes to scoring the basketball, that is the most important part of the game, and usually why teams win or why they lose. And looking at LeBron this series, he averaged 17.8 points per game. Again, Jordan's lowest average ever in the finals was 27.3, a whopping 10 points more than LeBron in 2011. And even more embarrassing, LeBron's 2 teammates, his 2 superstar teammates, Wade and Bosh, both outscored and outplayed him in this series. For comparison, in Michael Jordan's 15-year career, over 37 playoff series was always his team's leading scorer and not once close to being third. And looking at the Dallas Mavericks, both Dirk and Jason Terry outscored LeBron James on top of Wade and Bosh. For Michael Jordan, he was outscored in a playoff series by an opponent only once in his first ever playoff series in 1985 by Terry Cummings, meaning Jordan, from 86 to 98, was always his team's leading scorer and the best player on the floor. And one thing I don't want to get lost, the 2011 Finals was a very close and very competitive series. And of course the Heat, they were up 2-1 going into Game 4. And at numerous points in the series, despite LeBron James being a shell of himself not showing up, they still could have won. As looking at this series averages, Dallas outscored the Heat by an average of 2.4 points. Meaning if LeBron James just scored one more basket and didn't shoot 40% from the line, the Heat most likely win. That's why this series is so devastating for LeBron's legacy. Because unlike Jordan, you can't point to MJ the sole reason his team lost or didn't win a championship. Yes, he had bad moments here and there, but for entire fourth quarters over multiple games, in the NBA Finals, Michael Jordan never choked like this. As for Jordan's Bulls, 24 times they were the higher seed or an equal seed in a playoff series. And take a wild guess. What do you think Jordan's Bulls record was in those 24 series as the favorite or equal seeding? You guessed it, a perfect 24-0. And one of the most damning facts about the 2011 Heat that always gets looked over is for the entire playoffs in totality, Dwayne Wade was better than LeBron and his team's best player. After the entire postseason, he averaged 24.5 points, the most on the team, on 48.5% shooting. Again, for Michael Jordan, his best teammates ever, not once did he have a player outscore him or average more points. And looking at someone like Scottie Pippen, Pippen at his best never averaged above 22 points for a finals run or a playoff run in general, and actually only twice cracked 20 points alongside MJ. Also, a very little known fact is LeBron James, when he finally beat Boston in 2011, he wasn't the best player on his team in that series, as Dwayne Wade averaged 37-5 with 2 steals on 52% shooting. And the series clincher to beat Boston, for the first time in LeBron's career, he had 34-10-5 on 68% shooting, outclassing LeBron James in every category. Imagine if Pippen in 91 versus Detroit was the Bulls' best player. As looking at Michael Jordan compared to Scottie Pippen, when he beat the Pistons, he averaged 30 points, 7 assists, 5 boards on 54% shooting. Of course, Scottie played great, but compared to MJ, was not better. And looking at the series clincher versus Detroit, to finally beat them get over that hump, Michael Jordan had 29-8-8 on 64.7% shooting. And of course, Pippen once again played great, but not equal or better than Michael Jordan. And one thing we touched on earlier was fourth quarter play in the 2011 Finals. And I want to go in a little bit more detail to show you guys just how bad LeBron James was in these fourth quarters. As look at the series leaders, at number 1, you had Dirk, number 2, Dwayne Wade, 3, Terry, 4, Bosh, and tied for 5th, LeBron, Mario Chalmers, and Udonis Haslem. Now, LeBron, Mario, and Haslem all scored the exact same points, but both Haslam and Mario shot better from the field, meaning LeBron James, in his prime in the finals, was the 7th best player in the fourth quarters of that series. Again, for Michael Jordan, is there any final series in general he wasn't a top 5 player in the fourth quarters? Thankfully for Jordan, he never had a series that bad in the big time clutch moments. And looking at his fourth quarter stats we actually have, here's 1997 versus the Jazz. In this series, Jordan averaged 10.7 points per game in the fourth quarter, leading all scorers at 49% shooting. Even looking at 98, at age 35, he averaged 10.6 points per game, again leading the series and eventually winning the championship. Even older Michael Jordan, past his apex, was a great fourth quarter player. And here's one stat for you guys that'll blow your mind. In Game 6 versus the Jazz 98, Michael Jordan, in that fourth quarter, had 16 points. For LeBron James in 2011, for the entire series, he only had 18 points in the fourth quarter total. That is the biggest difference between Michael Jordan and LeBron. Jordan in the finals every time showed up in the big time moments. That's why he's 6-0. And LeBron James here and there didn't show up, choked, and didn't come through for his team, and that's why he's 4-6. As always, thank you guys for watching, hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you next time.